Hey guys, I want to welcome you back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. I am joined by a very special guest. He is a Detroit Pistons beat reporter for Woodward Sports Network, Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid. Hey man, what's going on? I haven't talked to you since the summer.
What up, though, brother, man? It's always good whenever we're able to get on here and do these streams, as well as whenever we keep up behind the scenes as well. But I'm feeling good. Always a great time when you're able to be on the Pistons Talk Podcast. Shout out to the legend over here, Anthony Colombo. Humble dude, but probably one of the leaders and the leader in this thing. Let me just be straight up. What up, though, brother?
I can't believe I said summer. I forgot I did that stream with you. I felt like it was like 10 people on that. And then my webcam died on me. So I had I forgot to charge it. I was like, damn. But I have since got a USB webcam, so I don't have to worry about charging a camera anymore, which is just it's a pain in the ass. Like, I'm just going to be lazy to do the USB at this point.
Man, Pistons gave us some things to talk about, even though they're not playing, huh?
Tons to talk about. I got 7 topics tonight, so we're gonna get into it. It's going to be a fun podcast. We're gonna be talking about JB Bickerstaff, Coach of the Year. We're gonna be talking about Star Thompson, possible what an extension looks like. Get to some ESPN mock trades. I'm sure you saw them this week. Also, kind of get into the free agency, and then we'll get into the NBA draft, obviously, because I know there are some NBA draft sickos out there. There's been a lot of pre-draft workouts that the Pistons are bringing in some prospects that Pistons fans are really hammering the table for. So should be a really fun episode. But we got to get into the Coach of the Year, man. So JB Bickerstaff did not win Coach of the Year. Joe Mazzulla did. Did JB get snubbed out of this award, you believe?
I 100% believe he got snubbed out of this award. I feel like I would have a whole lot more fire for this thing if I wasn't already expecting him to effectively be snubbed out of this award. You know, we had heard some things leading up to it, that there were some people who, and a large groundswell for Boston Celtics and what they were doing. People were just enamored with it when you and I talked and we said, hey, look, I told you on your pod too, like, hey, I believe Boston Celtics are going to be one of those tricky teams. They still have a large portion of the championship pedigree, USA basketball pedigree, MVP level candidates on there, all NBA player, all stars, and on that team. I thought that team was still going to be one that was really good. Why? Because Joe Mazzulla is still a really good coach, you know, and so that one was one that didn't surprise me. I thought that it was the Pistons who had to be able to effectively overcome any of their obstacles, which they did. You know who didn't? Orlando Magic. You know who didn't? The Atlanta Hawks. There were some teams, even the Philadelphia 76ers to a degree, that the Pistons were able to bypass. And I thought that there was a lot of people who didn't quite see them as a 60-win team, let alone a 50-win team. You know, and so that one to me, it's a little disappointing to see him coming here, JB Bickerstaff, that is, and change the Detroit Pistons culture, have these guys talking tough and actually walking tough as well to the tune of 60 wins after going 44 wins. After what? The first team to go from 14 to 44, not in the playoffs, 2 in the playoffs, 60 losses to 60 wins. That to me was something that needed the NBA. The NBA should have, in my opinion, awarded that. I think that that's what you want to highlight when you're talking about who is the coach of the year, but it always seems like these goalposts just seem to shift. They tell us Pistons start winning, and then these things will start mattering, but it just doesn't matter whether you are Dan Campbell, whether you are AJ Hinch, or now JB Bickerstaff. Welcome to the club, my brother.
I feel like it's back-to-back years. Like, I could have made a case for him last year, tripling the win total from 14 to 44. But then we get told by the media, like, well, if the Pistons were like maybe a top 4 seed, maybe he would have won. Does what better? He has the number 1 seed from basically Thanksgiving to the rest of the season. 60 wins. Haven't had that many wins since I was in middle school. So that was a long time ago because I'm 34. Like, that was a long ass time ago. And you don't win it. And it's not, I'm not so upset that he didn't win. I felt like Joe Mazzulla was actually the least deserving. Like, I would have been fine if they gave it to Mitch Johnson, because I feel like what he's doing right now is incredible. But
you can understand it.
you're gonna move goalposts because they didn't have Jason Tatum and they finished as the number 2 seed. Like I don't get it, man. Make it make sense. Someone said it in the live chat. I do want to give them a shout out for that, talking about Bill Simmons and kind of like the propaganda that he does over at the Ringer. I had no idea that the Ringer had so many media votes, because when I was looking at Coach of the Year, there was like 6 of them that all voted for uh, Joe Mazzulla for Coach of the Year. I was just like, man, like, how does a media company have that many NBA votes? But I mean, it is what it is. Maybe if JB goes 82-0, they'll give it to somebody else. I don't know, man. I really don't know.
The Pistons won 60 games, bro. It was 14 wins 2 seasons ago. Like, I just don't understand what we're doing here. Like, I'm so glad that you said you could have made the case for him last year. Yeah, it definitely should have been. Nobody was expecting that. And so I don't know, man. This team makes it back-to-back playoffs for the first time in 18 years.
Yeah.
And not just a group that kind of got in LeBron James's head. Shout out Stanley Johnson. I still respected that playoff year. Or even Mattress Leg Blake, the legend. He put his body on the line for that 1 year. This is something that you know is going in the right direction. You know, in the way the Detroit Pistons have always gotten it, though, they've never waited around for somebody to give them their props and their due before they just kind of kick the door in and take it for themselves. And so you're on this collision course already. There's nowhere else for this team to go but literally up. You see the trajectory that JB Bickerstaff has had them on, and you want to put a bigger chip on this team's shoulders. He's proven that his players have bought in. They listen. These guys, despite what they ran into the playoffs, these guys all took big leaps forward. You saw it from not just the play on the court, but one of the first things I saw in training camp was, all these guys, except for the one that's not here, all these guys look like they took a step forward in the strength and conditioning. Literally the one person that didn't make it the whole season was the one person who didn't look like he took that step forward. But you saw it reflecting in their play, man. So I don't know, man. JB Bickerstaff has helped this young team in more ways than just the win column. And I believe that you do a disservice when you effectively take that out of the spirit of the award to try and give it to Boston team, who I thought was still primed to be what you guys out there were calling the wide open East. That's what you guys called it. So I don't know. I thought they were still primed to be one of those top 4 teams in the East, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think we talked about it last time I was on the Woodward Sports YouTube channel about, like, I think sometimes people put Coach of the Year in a box, when Coach of the Year, I think, should also kind of go into culture and what you create as a coach, like on and off the court. And before JB got here, this was a team that was a laughing stock of the NBA. It was a team that not a lot of people took seriously. People were talking about relocation. We were on ESPN every day for the wrong reasons. Like, how long is this losing streak going to go? JB comes here and it completely flips the culture. But I mean,
Troy Weaver versus the fans.
Yeah, that's legendary. I still can't believe he actually, like, went back and forth with the fans and I'll beat your ass. But that's a whole other story for a whole other day. I remember when that video got sent to me, the kid that actually bitched at him sent it to me. He's like, Troy said he was going to kick my ass.
No. Boy, we were going through it, man.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't expect media members to actually, like, kind of think out of the box for awards, but I will say I know Joe Mazzulla is probably the most miserable person, because he said, I don't give a shit about the Coach of the Year award. Like, he didn't even, like, get the open of the award. One of his assistants had to open it for him, because, like, I don't want that shit. Like, you lost in the first round. Like, that trophy is just probably just such a stain. It won't even probably go in his office or anything. He probably doesn't want to see it at all.
That's and you know what? That's actually pretty interesting, because you talk about first round exits and people didn't quite showcase in the postseason what they did during the regular season. It seems like the Pistons are being punished for that more than any of these other squads. And I just don't understand that. All of these media darlings over the years that just kind of took steps back or literally flailed out in the first round, that type of stuff to me is just like, okay. Continue again to build up that chip just that much bigger, because I love the way that this team uses that as fuel and gets better. Like, I tell people all the time, like, I get it. They tripped over themselves in this Cleveland series, and I think that a lot of these players ran into now you're being game planned for literally every night for the first time in their careers, Jalen Duren. Like, and that's something that I expect him to improve over by next season. Why? Because I saw the improvements he made from between last year and this season. I expect him to get better. He's a workhorse. And shout out Doc Darius, who said, JD, Jalen Duren, spends his time last summer and during certain parts of the season literally working out with Rasheed Wallace. Now, if we can continue to have him working out with players like that, among others, to improve that footwork and such, which I believe he will, he's going to know now. There's just no way players like this kind of get smacked in the face a little bit and don't work to get better. That's why I got the Super Saiyan shirt on. We already know what happens when they take the losses, man. They come back stronger. And we saw this with Cade Cunningham. Lost the whole year. Lost the whole leg, bro. Lost the year. Came back stronger. Got that All-NBA and All-Star and playoffs on the rookie deal. And then took it to a whole nother freaking level the year later. And what did he say after the Knicks series last year? I now know what to do. He was a monster this year in the playoffs. And I expect Jalen Duren to take a similar trajectory the next year. And it's just going to be the Pistons going from literally obscurity to like annually one of the best teams, but very little awards to show for it. So JB Bickerstaff, man, I feel for you.
Expectations now. I mean, you won 44, you won 60. Like, Pistons fans are expecting at least the top 4 team in the East. I think that's where the expectations were. I know we had talked about expectations before. I know one of the players that is really important of this core is Asar Thompson, and it was reported yesterday that he is going to get an extension from the Detroit Pistons this summer, 5 years, $162 million reported by Bobby Marks. Are you kind of surprised at that figure for Asar Thompson?
When I looked at the case of like a Nick Claxton, I looked at the case of a couple other defensive-minded players who got paid in the past or before Asar, that's where I'm saying, like, you know what? I think that might be a decent number for Asar Thompson, especially if you can lock him in now, because he does have the opportunity to, I believe, push that number even higher. We saw with Jalen Duren, there were people who thought, hey, maybe we lock him in for 30 to 35 million. We were laughing at that last year. We were like, what? No, man, not what? No, Jalen Duren can prove that he's worth that. He's all-NBA team. He's not getting that. Oops. Oops. Jalen Duren said about that.
Yeah.
Leave Asar Thompson. The 32.5, do I think it's a little more than, if I'm pocket watching, which I shouldn't be? Yes. But do I think it's fair given where I believe he's going to go? 100%. 100%. I believe if you give him another season to play this thing out, you're going to be looking at a contract that could be even higher, just like we just played out with Jalen Duren. So he's a 3-point shot away, right? He's a 5%, 7% added to his 3-pointer away from legitimately being a $40 million a year player. If we think about it. So that's why I'm like, lock him at the 32.5. He continues to be that number one defensive player. You know what? Shout out Asar Thompson, man.
I said
2.5 a year, I think.
Yeah, around there. I said last week I thought he could get a similar contract to Jalen Johnson, which, in my opinion, I think is one of the best contracts in the league. He signed 5 for $150, and that contract's going to age like fine wine. The only difference is Jalen Johnson has an offensive bag. Asar isn't there yet. We know that he's a good cutter. We know that he loves playing in transition, lob threat, backdoor cuts, all that stuff. But I think
Johnson deal is nice, dog.
Yeah. I mean, it's really nice, man.
Like, I was thinking 29-30 for Asar too. That's why I'm like, man, 32.5, 33.
I think the one thing with him, though, like if you're the Pistons and let's say he does develop into a two-way forward and you lock him down for 5 years, 162, you look like the smartest guy in the room. Like, because if he develops into any type of two-way forward, then you're talking about a guy that is maybe in a similar type of conversation. And this probably sounds crazy, but like if he develops any type of mid-range, like is he like a Kawhi Light, like, because we know defensively he's one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, but like if he develops a mid-range jump shot, if he can start hitting his corner threes, not saying he's going to be Kawhi, that's why I said Kawhi Light. because I think it's kind of disrespectful to compare him to a two-time champion, which we will talk about Kawhi in a little bit. But I think the contract, if that is the contract, it could age very gracefully. I always go back to the Isaiah Stewart contract from a few years ago when we all crashed out over 15 million. Like, 30 million
Think about
is
that now. That aged like fine wine.
Yeah, I mean, like 30 million to me is a new 15 million in this new CBA, because the cap space is going to keep going up gradually 8 to 10% every year. Just really depends on how the market is, but I think the cap space this year is set at 165, and then you can go into the apron. So I think for what he brings, it's not too bad. But I think when you start looking at the contracts, you look at Cade, what Durant could possibly get. You're going to have to get everything else correct, though, in my opinion, because if you have one mishap, you might
on the margins.
Yeah, you might have to retool if you don't get everything correct after like this offseason.
I wanted to ask you, when you heard the report of Ausar Thompson and the extension coming this summer, what do you think the chances are of the Pistons saying, you know what, they might take a swing on somebody and then go over the cap for Jalen Duren and Ausar Thompson? And what would that look like for you, like a swing? Because a couple people I've talked to, they have different definitions of what a swing is. Some people think that's going all in and letting Danny Ainge take advantage of you for Lauri Markkanen. I don't know how comfortable I am knowing how Danny Ainge does things, but there's some people out there who believe that taking a swing is Trey Murphy, which they believe would be a tremendously better deal to be able to make, even though you're not necessarily getting a player today who's considered that bona fide all-star level player, even though you believe Trey Murphy can get there. So I wanted to be able to kind of get your take on it, because when I first heard it too, I thought, because if they lock those two players up right now, what happens to their flexibility down the road to be able to add that secondary player next to Cade? And so that's where I was like, I wonder what. I just wonder.
I think when you have difference in opinions of big swing, it really depends on like what would be your 3-year outlook, right? Like 3-year outlook, I still believe Cade Cunningham is a top 5 player in the NBA. I'd like to assume that Ausar Thompson has developed a little bit more offensively. Like big moves that you're talking about, like the Kyries, the Trey Murphys, the Lauri Markkanens, like you're going for a 20-point per game all-star. To me, that would be a big swing. And I see both sides of the fence. I see a lot of people that want to make that big swing because Trajan Langdon said, I'm evaluating, and I want to evaluate in the playoffs. He said, give me a couple of years and we'll see where we're at. It's been a couple of years. Pistons fans are antsy. They're waiting for that big move. You haven't made a big move since Blake Griffin, and that was a long time ago. Wow. So I personally believe they could choose the big move path if they really feel that way, but it also means you have to say goodbye to some of your favorite players on this team. That's just how it is. I can't really sugarcoat it. A lot of us fall in love with these players when they get drafted. We buy their jerseys, we go to games, we interact with them at community events. But if you want good all-star, superstar level players, you have to give up some of your favorite players on this team. And it becomes a tough conversation with some fans because they kind of let their fandom get in the way. But there's also the development patient approach that I think that a lot of people got that anticipation watching Trajan's presser. He talked about development. He talked about having all these guys get, incrementally better, going into next season. So it's kind of conflicting because in 1 minute with the presser, they preach patience. In another breath, they're like, yeah, those players are expensive, and usually teams don't want to give them up.
Yeah.
So it's like,
I've picked up on that.
Yeah, so it's like it's not that the Pistons aren't actively making calls and trying to get better. Like they're doing their due diligence. They're seeing what it could take. But I'll use Trajan's words directly. It can get a little bit expensive. It can get expensive, and expensive to me means draft capital. It means players like Duran, Asar, Ron Holland, Isaiah Stewart.
One of those guys at least. Yep.
Yeah, you're talking about like multiple picks and those guys. But I think some Pistons fans are to the point where like I'm there. I'm there. Like if you can get me another, second option with Cade, so he doesn't have to have such a high usage rate in the playoffs, and maybe he can play a little bit more off ball. Like we can get there. Like look at all the number 2 options this playoffs. No disrespect to Tobias Harris, but that was Cade's number 2. We can look at the Western Conference Finals. I mean, who's Wemby's number 2?
Preach, bro.
Like, De'Aaron Fox. Like De'Aaron Fox. Like you look at who's Jalen Brunson's number 2. Karl Anthony Towns, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges. Like Cade has probably had the least amount of help out of any playoff team. I mean, even the Magic. I mean, Paolo Banchero had Franz Wagner. Like we just don't have a true number 2. And I know some people want to,
and other people were like hooping.
Yeah. I know some people get like they want to put Jalen Duren into that number 2 option, which he did step up as a number 2 scorer, but I don't necessarily put him in the box of a number 2 option. I think he's more of a number 3 guy. You still need to get that number 2 next to Cade, in my opinion.
I agree with that. I wanted to see how he performed in the playoffs, where it was like, look, you're a focal point. And I believe that he will improve over what we saw to be a surefire double-double guy who can get back to on a nightly basis, consistently controlling the paint, even if they're game planning for you. I think some of that's just technique and not knowing what to expect, because you go through a season where I looked at some of the defense against him during the season. It was not as rough or as rugged or as keyed in. So he was able to just kind of dribble around at the top of the key and show off a little bit of what he had been working on over the last few years. But when they said, all right, bro, none of that's going on over here, that's when things started to change, and he didn't have any other counters to go to. This is where I am looking for development for coaching staff and for Jalen Duren all summer to look at these tapes from the playoffs and to get better and to improve, man. Like just straight up as it relates to a Jalen Duren thing. Like I don't know, man. With JD, I think that if we can get even maybe a couple more people, to allow Jalen Duren to be more like Ben Wallace was on this squad. I'm not saying like he has a defensive impact, but from an offensive standpoint, to be able to just even reduce a lot of that usage aspect and let him to be able to play more off of the pick and roll games, let him to play off of more of the actions, let him play off of some of the space that's created from like another facilitator next to Cade Cunningham and such. I believe that type of stuff might benefit players like him and Asar Thompson even that much more when they start to key in on let's stop Jalen Duren from being able to go to his pet moves and things of that nature. So I think that at least at the highest for the Pistons to be successful, I think, like a number 3 for Jalen Duren, and sometimes maybe even a number 4 on the squad, where he's still, though, focusing in on protecting the paint, protecting the rim, where, no matter what we believe about his performance during the playoffs, he took some major steps of a growth and improvement in those areas. So, I think kind of reducing it and getting it out of, all right, it's on you, because, bro, there were whole offensive possessions where it's one-on-one Jalen Duren versus Wendell Carter at the top of the key. One-on-one Jalen Duren versus like Jared Allen or Evan Mobley at the free throw line. And it's like, what are we doing right now? I get it looked nice during the regular season, but in the playoffs, I don't even know if that's the style of offense that you actually want to play through Jalen Duren. So, I agree with your point, man. Like, long story short, 3, 4th option, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, it gets tough. I see people talking about how, like, in the comments that Cade didn't do a good job of getting Duren the basketball and alley-oops. But, I mean, like, you watch the paint defense that Orlando and Cleveland was playing, like, game plan, pack the paint, get a body in front of Duren, take his right side away, because that's what he likes to do. Like, during the regular season, like, it was just, I'm just going to out-muscle you. I'm going to, just bully you and put my shoulder down. And with these dribble drives, and I'm going to get to the free throw line.
Coverage, no traps, no blitzes, no extra help. Like, there was literally nothing. Like, go back and look at those regular season tapes. My guy Anthony is not lying about this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that if he had any type of 12 to 15 foot jump shot, that negates of packing the paint, because then they have to kind of be on you a little bit more. And maybe that does create the opportunities for more pick and roll, more lob threats, because pick and pops. You can't just continue just to pack the paint, because if you had some sort of jump shot, which I know is in there because I see him practicing it during games. I've seen him practicing it this summer. I know it's a behind the scenes thing with Duren, and it's just not fully maybe ready to be on display yet. Maybe it will be this season. Maybe he does get re-signed by the Detroit Pistons. We don't know, man. I mean, $40 million is a lot. It's a lot. We'll see.
That's a whole lot of money, and it's like, the Pistons, they're in a position now where you can't afford to effectively let Jalen Duren just walk for nothing, can you? You hold so much power by him being a player you drafted, him being a player that you can go, over the cap to bring back, him being a player that, you can give the most money to if it comes down to that. And if you still believe, even though it's not a player that Trajan Langdon selected here, this is one that Troy Weaver valued. He said, I valued him, quote unquote, top 5 in this draft on his big board. And he said that, sometimes he thought about having him number 1 on his big board, which is just interesting in a draft in which they actually took Jaden Ivey number 5. So, Jalen Duren, at that 13 slot, I think it was an absolute steal. But does Trajan Langdon feel the same way compared to the amount of money that Jalen Duren's going to be able to command now? And how can we expect his camp to command anything less than $40 million a year? Like, realistically, how can we? Why would Jalen Duren at this stage in his career say, I want less? When realistically, when you talk about being a option 3 or even a 4th option, which I think him as a 4th would be even crazier, playing off of, like, say, I know people throw around stuff like, what if LA found a way to bring in Duren? And then he's playing off of actions created by Luka, and if they bring back a LeBron and their guard and such, like that type of stuff, that's where you throw the bag, because then you believe that Jalen Duren can get you over the top type of stuff. So that's the type of stuff where I'm like, man, that NBA 3rd team for Jalen Duren, it sent things into a completely different stratosphere than I believe any Pistons fan was in. You got to think, these awards are based off the regular season, and everybody right now was basing everything off of what? The playoffs. Well, welcome to reality. That's a dose. And like I said, I do believe he's going to be somebody that ultimately proves worth the investment. I keep hearing people throw around Andre Drummond. I hear people throw that name around. I'm like, listen, I believe that this is going to be a situation that proves much more fruitful than Andre Drummond. I believe Jalen Duren has already proven to be able to go and do the work, want to be great. And these are things that, and he has a good structure around him, a good organizational structure, a good head coach. These are things that Andre Drummond literally went on tour and said, hey, at different camps, these are things I didn't have. And I didn't have the will to effectively be great and to put in that work. These are things that we don't have to worry about with Jalen Duren. Everyone from Cade to JB Bickerstaff to Trajan Langdon to any of us that get the privilege to see him at any of these events or practices or shoot-arounds, you see young dog is working and working some more. So that's why I'm like, you know what? It's going to be a penny. He effectively earned it. It's going to be a pretty penny, but now he's going to have to do a whole lot more to change those narratives. The contract doesn't change the narratives. It just adds a whole lot more pressure that's going to be a lot more loud than any Angel Reese chants and things of that nature that he heard in the playoffs.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think people talk about the age of being 22, making All-NBA, this step in development offensively. I don't really think he scratched the surface of a type of player he is. I think people just look at the money and kind of get scared, which I understand. Because it
40 million is a lot.
It kind of gets difficult when you're talking about the ultimate goal for this Detroit Pistons core is to compete and ultimately, raise that Larry O'Brien trophy at the end of the day. Jalen Duren is going to have to almost have a transformation like Joel Embiid type of like skill set at like that $40-50 million range, in my personal opinion, because if you pay him the $40 million, that would make him the 7th highest paid center and that would put him above Alperen Sengun, who has more of an offensive bag than him. So it'll be interesting. Again, I'm not pocket watching. It'll be interesting to see like what he does get paid, but didn't know we're gonna go down that rabbit hole, but I love it. I love it.
Look, what's the conversation we have to have? It is the news. We're gonna cover it, because you know what, basketball contracts are a part of basketball. So, whatever he gets, I'm happy for Jalen Duren. It's as long, I'm hoping that's in a Detroit Pistons uniform. But to be able to talk about how this affects the team, I think that's appropriate. They put together the team based on the cap, and he's going to have now a hefty portion of that invested in him if he comes back to the Detroit Pistons. So I don't think it's necessarily pocket watching. I think it's cap sheet watching. I think it's hope for your team watching. And I believe any of the players out there as well would understand that ultimately we sit as fans who it's been a long time since a championship. I talked to Jeff and others, some of our some of my young dogs, and I just talked to them as if 04 is a real thing for them. And I realized it's not. It's really not. For a lot of these young media guys, they've only known like the last 18 years of kind of putrid basketball. There's whole grown people who they've been bookended by the last time the Pistons made back-to-back 18 years ago, and then this time in the playoffs, back-to-back playoff appearances. And it's been a lot of putrid basketball in between that, man. So
pretty sure Jeff was still in diapers when the Pistons were competing in the Eastern Conference.
Yes. We got into it one time. He was like, and he just looked at me. He was like, "Bro, I was like a baby." I was like, you know what? I'm sorry, dog. We were talking about the Blake Griffin year, and it put it in context for me because I'm sitting here like I respect Blake Griffin, but come on, like, why are y'all making it this? And I realized like that's the best year of basketball that some grown people out there have ever had in their Pistons fandom. And that's real. And I had to respect that. I'm like, oh crap, bro. Like I get it now. He was like, bro, do you understand what I've had to watch, what I rooted for, what I bought into, what I believed in? He was like, bro, like I had to believe in these. Like we celebrated like, some of these years, like the 04 Pistons, right? In diapers. Okay, so now you're 6, 7, 8 running around in Charlie V and BG jerseys, though. Like, I was just like, dang. That's when it hit me because I did the same thing, though. Like, tail end of like the Bad Boys era, I was in diapers. You know what I mean? Then you buy into a lot of hope, and there was a lot of mid basketball. There was some peaks. I loved Grant Hill. Love Jerry Stackhouse, absolute walking bucket. Absolutely love Jerry Stackhouse, but there was a lot of not so championship level basketball during those years, man. And the 04 team changed things for me. And it's cool to see in this era that I believe Cade Cunningham is going to be somebody in these young guys that changes that for this new era of people. I see PD Mac. He said he was in his 20s, man, when the 04 Pistons did their thing.
I was 13. And like this is so funny though. We'll get into the ESPN free agency targets next. But do you remember like when you were at school and the Pistons would send like a quote unquote employee to the school and say like, oh yeah, I know Chauncey Billups, I know Ben Wallace, dude. I ate that up, man. Yep. I ate that shit up.
Absolutely. Hey, can you tell him that I said I like that move that I remember that stuff.
Yeah, like 100%. I completely fell for that when I know it's just probably like the ball boy or something like that. Like 100%. No disrespect the ball boys out there, but
yeah.
Because they had like some like guy from the Pistons come out and like you could buy like a Ben Wallace or a Tayshaun Prince jersey, and these things were knockoffs. Like there wasn't even like an NBA or a freaking Spalding logo on it. Like it was like before TEMU type of jerseys, like TEMU quality. Like
yeah, I remember. You know what? Shout out to the t-shirts, and I know they want the fans to wear the t-shirts at these games. But do you remember the era when they gave out like the jerseys? Like it would just be like a obviously not a real jersey, but it would be one of the knockoff type jerseys, man. I was like, yo, that was a pretty dope era of fandom. I hope they bring that type of stuff back, but just my side note.
Yeah, I mean the bobbleheads at Arby's were legendary. Like, gotta bring those back.
Yes.
Every time I do a podcast with Sean, I see his like his Arby's. It's like his Pistons bobbleheads when it was like a set like at Arby's, like when they were doing like the championship promotion back there. I was like, man, like I wish like people would like start doing that again because it was actually pretty fun. But now we got people talking about Blake's the reason why I was a Piston fan. I was only 5. Shout out to Camille, who's a Pistons Talk member when the Pistons won a championship. Yeah.
I see what's the name too, Benjamin Foe in the chat. Rodney Stuckey posters was in someone's house. I get it. This was people's hope. People believed in Rodney Stuckey, man. Shout out Lil 50 Cent.
Yeah, Detroit needs to hand out fake buffs. They did actually the last home game of the season against the Bucks. They gave out fake Cartiers. And the reason why I know that is because I went to the game. I went to the game with Easy, and then when we were in the concourse with the Extreme team, shout out to Ace. I see Ace with his little fake buffs on, just breakdancing, like out dancing like the Pistons Extreme team out there, man.
Ace.
Yeah.
Shout out, man.
Yeah,
shout
man.
out.
He's
I believed in Brandon Knight. Matthias Mays. Goodness.
I got
there were some times I felt so bad for Brandon Knight, man.
I got a bobblehead from Burger King. Yeah, man. Like, bring back the bobbleheads at fast food restaurants, man. Like, come on, Pistons. I know you're more tapped into the city now. Like, I don't know, do like a Coney Island promotion or something with the Pistons stuff. Like, we need some Pistons merch out here.
Oh my gosh, bro! A Cade Cunningham bobblehead giveaways at the Coneys in the city.
Okay, like as soon as you said Cade, have you ever seen that Javier Cades in the team store where it looks nothing like him? It's like a little plushy doll. And his hair's like all spiked up
with a little weird hair. Yeah.
Bro, if anyone knows what I'm talking about, they're probably busting out laughing. Like, it's so bad. It's so bad.
As soon as you said it too, I knew exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah, okay. We're going to get back on topic. This is why we can't do a podcast more than once a month or once in a while, because we just go down these rabbit holes. We don't focus. We both have ADD, and it's just not a good. It's not a good mix. So, next topic I want to get into is free agents. Now, ESPN made a list for some big name free agents, and obviously none of the big names were actually kind of linked by Bobby Marks to the Detroit Pistons. So I made this graphic for people watching on YouTube to kind of follow along. So they mentioned Kobe White from the Charlotte Hornets, Ayo Dosunmu from the Timberwolves, Rui Hachimura from the Lakers, Kelly Oubre Jr. from the 76ers, one-time Piston Quentin Grimes from the Sixers. 6 games of Quentin Grimes and a bunch of shit talking, like low-key on Twitter, apparently, to the Pistons. I mean, when you saw this report, I mean, are there any players on this list in free agency, if you're the Pistons, that you would be remotely intrigued in?
If they're saying this is the entire free agency, it's like, I feel like to the crowd that wants Trajan Langdon to get that second star, that this would be a letdown. You know, I believe this would be more of what they did last summer and what they did, what Trajan did to try and craft this team. And that's putting this effectively in the hands of Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, who we presume is going to get paid, Asar Thompson, who we presume is going to get paid, and then everybody else support these guys. You know, I wonder if the way they would look at it, if this is the way they went, you know, if, hey, we were, you know, we just had dead legs in game 7 and we're probably here beating the Knicks and we're in the finals and people are sitting here looking at this differently, saying we just need to make tweaks. Now, I would love to see a secondary player. If you're telling me you're getting a secondary player in here next to Cade and one of these guys, 100% fire. 100% fire. But, you know, I like the first 2 guys on this list, and those are 2 players that we've seen, I think it feels like for years, especially Ayo from the Big Ten, for years it feels like with the Chicago Bulls. And they're 2 players who I was like, dog, why are you letting these guys just kind of just kind of waste away over there type of thing. And so those are two players who I definitely wouldn't mind seeing here in a Detroit Pistons uniform. If you're talking about off this list, there's another one that just popped into the chat that I actually really, really like. Ray Jones said Norman Powell, but based off this list, I do believe Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu are two players I think really fit. Rui Hachimura is interesting. I feel like Kelly Oubre Jr. from like 4 years ago would have been the guy when Philly was able to kind of snag him on that really, really low, cheap deal. But I don't know if today is necessarily the type of fit. And Quentin Grimes, I just, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the best player that kind of fits the Pistons culture, in my opinion, is Ayo. Because it is a two-way guard. Like personally, like when I saw Ayo mentioned, I was like, bro, we literally could have traded for Ayo at the deadline. Like, and you telling me we couldn't throw a couple seconds to Chicago's way and just got him. No disrespect to Red Velvet, Kevin Huerter, but I mean, like Ayo to me would have been an intriguing piece in the playoffs, or even Kobe White for that matter. I mean, he went berserk in the play-in tournament game. He single-handedly eliminated the Miami Heat in that fourth quarter. But like, I see Rui, and I'm like, okay, that to me would just be a Tobias replacement because Tobias decides I'm going to LA or I'm going to go get one last bag. Like Chicago is going to offer me like 30 million, or Brooklyn might offer me a little bit of a payday because I mean he's going into like what his 15th, 16th season, so he's probably looking to get paid maybe one more time.
It'd be the last contract, yeah.
Yeah, I mean Kelly Oubre. I mean, like I've been screaming for Kelly Oubre probably for like 6 years. I thought he would have been a perfect like rebuild forward to kind of bring in because he's a really good 3-point shooter, underrated like passing lane sneaky defender. But Quentin Grimes can just like jump off the Ambassador Bridge for all I care. Like I don't want to see that guy in a Pistons uniform again. Like I'm good with that, man. Like. Like when we had him, he was just like he said all the nice things that you wanted to hear, and then like as soon as he was gone, he was just like you kind of saw like a little bit of sneak dissing like on his socials. Like I was like, oh
yeah,
like,
get it's no need for those guys. I feel you on that one, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel you on that one.
If I'm a Piston fan, two players in free agency that would be at the top of my board, Norman Powell, like a lot of people had mentioned. If you can't get Norman Powell this offseason, just go south. Maybe you try a CJ McCollum. Maybe you try it. I mean, I know it's not the sexiest name. He's just been a really good vet. He could get you that 20 points a game. He can handle the basketball a little bit. He just plays really slow. Him and Cade to me would probably have the slowest paced backcourt in probably the NBA because they're both methodical. But I mean, maybe CJ, maybe you go down the John Collins route. I saw Motor City Hoops out to Bryce Simon write a article about him today.
Yeah,
free agency, man, it blows. It's a bunch of old guys and some under the radar players that I think a lot of Pistons fans would not get too excited about.
Yeah, and I don't know the prospects of Norman Powell. I just feel like he's going to be one of those guys that we love that is just the least likely to be in a Detroit Pistons uniform. But CJ McCollum is a guy who, if you remember at the trade deadline, I put out my top 5 candidates for the Pistons that I would like to see them go after. He was one of those guys, along with Colin Sexton, who I thought he would have been a big help for the Pistons in his last playoffs. But I digress. But CJ McCollum was somebody I thought, with this Pistons makeup, I really think you just need him for the moments that you saw him shine with Atlanta. And when Atlanta got him, I thought that they got exactly what the Pistons need. Somebody who in the fourth quarter, when things are getting tight, somebody who's used to that type of pressure, then at that point in time, you can have him start to take over. There were moments in the Cleveland Cavaliers series a couple of times where, they started to blitz Cade. One of those games was the one where there was 3 straight turnovers at the end. Another one, he just didn't really have it. And the team kind of let go of a 9-point lead over 2 minutes. And then you got game 7. Those are 3 times right there where I believe, even if you're playing a load management game with CJ McCollum most of the year, if he's still proven to be one of those big time players during the crunch time moments, that's where I'm looking at, okay, this is a player that I probably want to look at finding somebody to get on the team. Now, is he starting? Probably not. For me, if he's not one of those guys that's going to be there consistently during the season, but if he's going to be playing consistently, I'd still probably bring him off the bench to be able to get a little bit more youth, like you said, a little bit more speed into that starting lineup with Cade. I think if you're going to take the ball a little bit out of Cade's hands, he's proven he can play next to a guard that can push the pace and things of that nature. That's probably why I'm going, is looking to push the pace just a little bit more and utilize CJ McCollum more for those kind of big time moments. Like Atlanta Hawks, young team, they had a guy that was able to kind of do that for them in the ways that Tobias tried to play tough, but not quite the big game, big time player that I believe CJ McCollum can show up to be in certain spurts. But that's if you're looking kind of, like you said, like budget type free agency.
Yeah, I mean, he's 34. I don't know how much is left in the tank. He's the CBA killer. Apparently, he's the reason that we have aprons now. But I think he would be like worst case scenario. Your free agency maybe doesn't go the way you want it, or all these names that are linked. Watch us not even trade for a guy that we're talking about. Watch it just be like a complete watch it be Zion or something like that. Like just like out of the blue. It would not surprise me whatsoever. If it was just like a player that we're not even paying attention to, or even like someone just said Chris Middleton. Like Chris Middleton, he had a kind of a decent season after he got traded from Washington in Dallas. Again, I don't know if the Pistons are really looking to bring in a Chris Middleton. I wouldn't be opposed to it because I think he's a good vet. I think he'd be a really good mentor for both of the forwards on this team, and Ron Holland and Asar Thompson, because I mean the guy's probably had one of the prettiest jump shots I've seen. It's a shame that we didn't trade him so early. No,
yeah, you definitely don't lose the jumper. And I guess what I would ask you is, do you believe that if this is the summer of no big swing for the Pistons, that making one or two marginal moves, do you believe that keeps them in contention for a championship? Not just to battle in the East like we saw this year, but to be a team that you can realistically say, you know what, they're going to be one of the squads, one of the last two teams standing in the East, battling for a good chance to go and play in a championship game.
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure.
Going back and forth on it too. Goodness.
Yeah. I'm not sure at all. I hope I don't piss too many people off, because we do have over 1,000 people watching us right now between Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Now,
what up, though?
Again, this was not my mock trade. This is ESPN's mock trade. So they had two. They had one for Kyrie Irving and one for Paul George. We'll do the one for Paul George because I think it's actually probably the one that I think is probably the funniest to me. So the Paul George trade that they put together is this. I can't believe I wasted all this time making a graphic and doing Photoshop. So a mock trade that ESPN came up with was Pistons get Paul George in a future first. Pistons would send Isaiah Stewart, Duncan Robinson, and Karis LeVert. What do you think of bringing Paul? I can't even say it. Paul George to the Detroit Pistons.
Man. What? Goodness gracious. That's an interesting trade, actually, man. That's actually an interesting trade. But I feel like you're losing so much, I guess, to a degree of experience. I think it matters what you're doing with Karis LeVert, how you feel about him long term. Because I actually believe when I look at this, it depends on what you think of Paul George. I don't think that there's much left in the tank at all. I just don't. I feel like even though Isaiah Stewart didn't have the postseason that I was hoping he would have this year, I was looking for him to be like last year. We thought, oh man, if we had Isaiah Stewart, that's the difference maker. I still appreciate what he is for this squad, what he was all during the regular season as one of your top rim and paint protectors. I think that type of stuff is actually pretty important. I do. And I think it's underestimated and underrated for over the length of a full season. And Duncan Robinson, obviously, a three-point shooter. I don't know about this one, man. Like, at first I was looking, and it's like I remember Paul George from a time before, and this is a deal like, oh, I'm getting Paul George and the first-round pick. If this is 10 years ago, you like pick. absolutely. But as things stand today, I don't think I can do this deal, man. What about
Yeah,
you?
I mean it's 54 and then $56 million of Paul George.
Yeah,
I mean we're to the point where it's like
absolutely not.
we're at PED Paul or PED PG-13. It's just like I think he had more podcasts hosted than games played at one point in
Yeah,
his
he
career.
got suspended and all that. It's just like, yeah, nah.
Yeah, it's nothing like if this was 5 years ago, absolutely, I'd be all over bringing Paul George to the Detroit Pistons. But what you do lose is an elite rim protector and a backup center in Isaiah Stewart. You lose your best high volume 3-point shooter in Duncan Robinson. How are you going to replace that? And then you lose a guy in Karis LeVert, which I know Pistons fans have kind of like mixed feelings with Karis LeVert, but I actually thought he had a pretty solid playoffs. But the regular season was a whole different story. It was very up and down. But this is one mock trade with ESPN where I see why people are saying the fun ESPN because it's a really bad trade. It's really bad.
Yeah, it's like I said, like my brain when it first saw it, it was like, oh wow, Paul, and then it's like Paul George, like the guy's a dinosaur, man. Like I said, if this is 10 years ago, maybe like you said, even 5 years ago, maybe you're talking something different. But when a guy's getting suspended this late in his career for PEDs, it's just like, nah, what are we doing here?
And then he said, I didn't even know. I was like, yeah, right, man. Like, you need those P. Like, as soon as he came back, I was like, bro, why is he shooting like 60%? And I was like, yeah, 100%. It's got to be. He's got to be on drugs. There's no way. There's no way. He's like doing these cross ups and he's playing back to back. So I was like, ain't no way, bro. Ain't no way.
In the days of like load management, Paul George of all players is out here playing back to back.
Ain't no way. So there was one more mock trade, and I see a lot of Pistons fans on the fence with this one. So this is for Kyrie Irving, which I feel like Kyrie Irving, like the whispers for him at ESPN have been like really, really quiet. Like certain hosts on certain podcast networks have kind of said, like, Cade would be perfect with Kyrie Irving. He'd be the perfect complementary piece, but the trade would be very similar. Isaiah Stewart, Karis LeVert, Ron Holland in this year's first round pick, which is 21st overall in 2026.
This is one that I've actually seen, like you said, the discourse. You see people who, in a vacuum, they just believe it's the way to go. You figure out everything else later. But I don't know, man. I feel like when you're talking about your gritty guys on your squad, you're talking about Isaiah Stewart and you're talking about Ron Holland. To lose the character and identity of both of those guys in one trade for Kyrie Irving, that's pretty daunting. Now, on the flip side, you're gonna have people who, I see Matthias in the chat. He says Stu was missing in the playoffs. You're gonna have people who talk about the fact that Ron Holland was effectively benched during the playoffs. Isaiah Stewart, like I said, he didn't necessarily show to the degrees that we thought he was going to. And that's where there's a lot of people believe, look, as long as Kyrie Irving is healthy, which that's the big if, then wouldn't Kyrie Irving instantly lift this team? Especially when all you'd have to trade is 3 bench players and your 21st, your first overall pick this year. Will Kyrie Irving be better than that player? But for me, I feel like this is just too much. I don't know, man. This feels like a lot to lose for a player who I don't know, is Kyrie Irving going to be healthy?
Yeah.
I don't know. Is Kyrie, because you got to think, even if you're willing to trade a Ron Holland and Isaiah Stewart, you'd have to believe that in individual deals that those guys could fetch you not a haul, but they could get you something. They can get you something decent. Rotational players, if they're packaged pretty decent player, as ESPN is sitting here talking about as well. But I don't know. I think almost even if you were going to trade them, I would trade them for a much, I don't know how much better of a player you can get, but one that I think I have a little bit more reliability and dependability on from a standpoint of health. So yeah, I would have to go thumbs down on this one for me, brother.
Yeah, I mean, if maybe the first wasn't involved and maybe you want to kind of swap out Ron for a Sasser, maybe I would consider it. Like we were talking about earlier,
That's
like
a little different, yeah.
you have to give up something to get something. I think a lot of Pistons fans fire up the trade machine and they're throwing like Chaz Lanier and Isaac Jones and trying to get Giannis, right? It's just like, no, you guys, you'd have to give up something. Even though Kyrie hasn't played basketball in 18 months, it's a champion, one of the best guards that this league has seen in a long time. He's a really good player, but you don't really know what he's going to look like coming back. And also, Dallas does have a new general manager, Masai Ujiri. Like, does Masai want to see what Kyrie has left in the tank to pair with Cooper Flag? Does Dallas kind of want to go through this weird timeline where Coop is the franchise player, but you still have a veteran in Kyrie kind of being his vet and his mentor? Like, what does Kyrie want to do long term? Does Kyrie want to maybe team up and, try to win one more ring before it's all said and done? I do know from a community standpoint, Kyrie would be very loved here, especially in the Dearborn community. I think they would absolutely love him, but I think this is the archetype that the Pistons need, though. This is the type of archetype you're looking for. A guy that can score at all three levels, have Cade playoff ball, take over games if you need him to, and kind of share the ball handling duties out there with him. But I just don't know what I personally feel like long term with Kyrie. I like the fit, but I'd want to see Kyrie play a couple games a season to maybe decide whether or not to pull the trigger. But I know, like, if this was a trade in the offseason and it like kind of was on my desk, I would really be thinking hard about this type of trade, like really hard, probably for like a week.
That's why I said in a vacuum, you think Cade, you think Kyrie, and you're thinking, you know what, this is a squad this is a backcourt that can do some damage. When you talk about putting Cade off ball and trusting completely the other player that has the ball in their hands, are there many players in the league that are potentially available that you trust more than a Kyrie Irving? And that answer is going to be a resounding no. Like, I know that we can go through a list, but it's Kyrie Irving. And so it's like, from that standpoint, in a vacuum, you 100% do this deal. Now, from a standpoint of what do you do to your team's regular season capability? So no matter how much people say what these players weren't in the postseason, which I want them to be able to show up during the postseason, you still need to field a team. You still have to have guys during the regular season. And you saw the pace at which the Pistons pushed. You're going to want to utilize that type of depth and have those types of rugged players to be able to help you get through the course of an 82-game season. And so from that standpoint, that's where I'm looking. I'm like, man, you're bringing in a lot of money when you're talking Kyrie Irving. Outgoing is some of your flexibility from a contractual standpoint. Obviously, we know, though, Ron Holland. He has pretty soon he's going to have a cap hold, as a number 5 overall pick. And this Pistons organization has been very, very kind of straightforward with how they handle these lottery picks that they had, because they had a flurry of them, which means we know this. You're not signing all of them unless some of them are just taking significantly less money than they think that they can potentially get. And Ron Holland's will be one of those players that comes up with a very interesting case here. He is not like Marcus Sasser. Sasser might be able to go and get more, but it is not something to where his cap hold is going to be as astronomical as a Ron Holland. So there are some technical things that I think about when you see a trade like this. But like you said, I think you would have to tweak it just a little bit. Like, if, instead of Ron Holland, if it was maybe a Sasser, maybe we'll look at it. If it's maybe even a future first and not this year's first, maybe that even enticed me a little bit more, especially if, like you said, we know that Kyrie's going to be good. That's something different. 1 year of Kyrie and Cade, that's ignorant. Like, I can't even think about Kyrie drawing the entire defense in and them falling asleep on Cade Cunningham at the 3-point line. I just can't even think about that. Like, that to me doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, so I looked up his contract. It's actually not that bad. So he's on a $39 million deal going into this season, and then 42. So it's not.
He'll be getting paid less than Durant.
Yeah. Man, you're gonna get people messed up in the comment section for that. I already know, man.
Snap.
Yeah. That's funny.
You know what, dog? Oh man, this deal.
I guess it's a deal you got to think about, though. I mean, like, even though he hasn't played basketball, I mean, it's a champion. It's Kyrie Irving, but I've seen a lot of Pistons fans like kind of cause pause because he hasn't played basketball in 18 months, and like what does he actually look like? I'm not sure. But I do know there's been, a couple pictures of Kyrie and, Cade Cunningham that surfaced last year when he took his daughter Riley to a WNBA game. And,
Yeah.
he's talking to Kyrie for a little bit. I mean, I feel like a lot of NBA players are recognizing that Cade's one of those ones. Like, I know Kawhi talked to him after he dropped 55 points on him. And they like Kawhi doesn't talk to anybody, it seems like. And like they were talking for like 30 seconds. So it'll be interesting, man. It'll be interesting.
It was cool to see Cade kind of just talking to different stars of the league, after games and things of that nature, and seeing, like you said, when he went back home and such, seeing him at these other games and such, and seeing him talking to other players, it was like, yo, this is pretty cool to see him doing this. Like obviously, the one where he was talking with Kawhi Leonard and all of that. I was like, yo, man, go out there and politic, young man. Go out there and politic. It's gonna be cool to see. And I told some people as well, like, as it relates to Jalen Duren, I believe the rumors of his demise. I said this even after thing, and Dr. Darius said this after the season. They are greatly exaggerated. This whole aspect of he's just lost his contract, lost his positioning in the league, lost his all-star status, and lost his Olympic team stuff. I just don't. I push back on those notions. I actually think he will launch in Olympic style basketball anyway. But that's another thing. But it's gonna be interesting, man. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it'll be interesting when you got both the Thompson twins and Stu on Team Jamaica against Cade and Duren. That's gonna be I hope Team Jamaica makes the qualifiers. I really do. I really do.
That would be TV. Oh yeah.
Oh, they're gonna be talking shit to each other.
Oh yeah.
We were talking about Kawhi Leonard. I want to kind of stay on topic. So there was a report that came out. I know Amari had the report like right away, and then other reporters nationally have kind of like picked up the story that if Kawhi Leonard is available, that the Detroit Pistons would be interested in trading for him. Now, obviously, the Clippers probably don't want to rebuild because go look who has their picks. You guys could probably take a guess who has the Clippers picks. It's the OKC Thunder. But if in some event that the Clippers decide to move on from Kawhi, do you think the Pistons should make a call to see what it could take?
Definitely make the call to see what it can take, because I believe Kawhi Leonard, when you look at some of the older players in the league that have that star potential, I believe he's one of the ones that's still transformative and impactful. I know people talk about, load management during the regular season, but I still believe, as long as you get this guy for the most important parts of the regular season, then you are good to go. Just period. We saw this started with the Toronto Raptors. And again, you're changing up the way defenses can't even attack you. You can't pack the paint against Jalen Duren with a team that has a Cade Cunningham and a Kawhi Leonard on it. You just can't do it. And so that's something where, I'm looking at. Apologies. That's something where I'm looking at, a situation where if just a Cade Cunningham and a Kawhi Leonard, you're looking to keep, one or two of your other young drafted players in Ausar Thompson and Jalen Duren. And obviously, I don't know what the deal would take. I don't know what, the Clippers are looking for in return, because you're right. They're not looking to just take back junk, and they are not looking to kind of rebuild or start over from scratch. You got the new arena out there and things of that nature. So that's one where I begin to shudder a little bit about what a deal looks like if you bring in a Kawhi Leonard. Are they just sitting there looking like, yeah, and Ausar Thompson looks pretty good too? Is that something that they're doing and asking in return? So that's one that actually I balk at way more than the Kyrie Irving deal. I like Kawhi way more, but what does it take to get that deal done?
I mean, there's one more year in his contract, which is $50 million. So it essentially, if you do trade for him, it could be a 1-year rental. He could get bounced, kind of like how he signed with Toronto and then he just went to the Clippers. I know someone had someone had just mentioned that Steve Ballmer just built an incredible arena out in California, and he just lost James Harden. I wouldn't say he just lost James Harden. The Clippers were just too cheap to give him an extension. They didn't want to give him an extension. Personally, when Darius Garland is healthy, because he wasn't healthy this year, I kind of like Darius Garland long term versus a James Harden, even though it sounds like he might take a discount in Cleveland. But kind of circling back to Kawhi, I think it will be pretty pricey to try to pry him away from the Clips. If I'm the Pistons, all I'm asking is, we're not talking about Cade Cunningham for Kawhi, and we're not mentioning Asar Thompson for Kawhi. Take your pick. Take your pick. You can have anybody you want. You can have anybody you want. Draft picks are available as well. And I know some people might crash out over that, but
you said you're only protecting Cade and Asar?
That's it. That's it for me.
No,
that's it.
That's it. Nobody's favorite center?
No, that's it.
Ooh.
That's me. Like Cade and Asar, to me, I think are two building blocks that you can build around. Everyone else, I think at least we can get to a conversation that has a price. That's what I would tell the Clippers if I was running the team. Like, take your pick and we can have a conversation and see if you're just like bat crazy and I'm not making that trade or whatever it may be. But
I feel like that would get it done if you got old boy on the block. If you said, hey, look, we would allow one of our coveted to be available. And that the only way that happens is if the Pistons just don't, hey, look, Durham, we're happy to give you this money for this year. It matches up perfectly with the 1 year of what's the name of Kawhi. They have this, beautiful stadium out there. I got to go out there during the All-Star weekend. That stadium is amazing. And maybe they want to be able to have a young star, one of the young all-stars of the league who just played his all-star game out there. You know what I mean? Maybe they want to have him out there. That's the only scenario that I see it working as, which makes it interesting, man, that you say things like that. I thought that when I hear people talk about who's protected on the team, I still hear Jalen Duren as one of those protected. So it is interesting to hear you say it, but I think it makes sense because it's in the realm of reality. It takes something to get something. And that's the one component here that we have to honestly take when you're going into off season, the draft, the free agency, the moves we want to see our team make. It's always going to, if you want to be able to bring in that star, I feel like it's going to cost us at least a minimum of one or two of these young players that we have fallen in love with as fans, observers, media, or whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's where I'm at. Like, if I'm able to keep two of my best players and still come away with an all-star, a guy that averaged almost 28 points a game, I single-handedly watched this man torch Asar for 55 points and made it look easy. And I know he's like the poster child for load management. I know he's had seasons where he hasn't played any more than like 50 games. I think he played 37 games a few years ago. But I mean, if you know that you can get Kawhi Leonard in a starting lineup with Asar Thompson, good luck, Eastern Conference. Good luck.
That dog, I just kept sitting here thinking, like, man, what lineup do you even run? Do you just go understanding how Cade Cunningham can play the point? At that point in time, are you just running like a little perimeter of Cade Cunningham, Kawhi, and then you can afford to, probably bring back a Tobias and Jalen Duren. That's a pretty crazy lineup to me. Well, in this scenario, you probably don't have Jalen Duren there, so you do got to figure out your center spot. I guess that's where, if you're in a position to keep that 21st pick, which I don't think they would be able to. So you're right. Goodness gracious, on paper or just kind of in a quick thought, it sounds good, but it's expensive. It's going to be expensive to pull off something like that, especially when you consider the fact that they're not looking at just, if you're trading Kawhi on the last year of his deal, you're looking to get something back for him because you could just play that out if you wanted to otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, like that's kind of where I'm at. Like in terms of we talk about big picture, we're talking about big fish. Like to me, I know people maybe have like crazy eyes, like you wouldn't protect Duran. I like Jalen Duran. I think being 22, I could totally see him developing a mid-range jump shot. I could totally see him getting better as a basketball player on the offensive end. I think what he is defensively is what he is defensively. I don't think there's going to be any type of progression of him being like a defensive player of the year candidate. I just don't. I think he'll be a average to below average defender at best. And that's okay. Some centers are just more offensive. I think Jalen Duran is more of an offensive center. But I mean, if you're telling me I could be in conversations with possibly like a Jamal Murray, a Kawhi Leonard, a Trey Murphy, like yeah, like we can have conversations. We'll see like what the package is. And that's just me taking my Pistons fan hat off and just being objective. Because I think Duran is a very talented young player, but
Yeah.
he's still unpolished. He still needs development.
And
So
you see the
that's
way
where
deals are made in the NBA. Well,
at, at,
and
at,
if we're being realistic, that is the way they're made in the NBA. You don't see trades, and you're like, oh, there's a nobody for a whole bunch of somebodies. Like it just doesn't work that way. You're usually like, yo, look at all these names on both sides of it. Even if you think someone got fleeced, there's still names, like real names, good names on both, or at least engaging names on both sides of it. And that's where you're right. You know, when you start talking about what a swing looks like for the Pistons, you got to be prepared for one of these players that we once thought, we thought, oh, we got a core four. How? like seriously, a drafted core four, unless all these players turn out like superstars, stars to superstars, like OKC, how?
yeah.
And even them, they can't really afford to hold on to them draft picks, man. Like, how are they going to pay for these guys and give what? You got cap holds of what, a 40 million a piece for Chet and J Will? So
Yeah.
it's like, you're coming up in a situation, it's gonna put that type of pressure on you if you're the Pistons.
Yeah, like I said, it'll be interesting. Like, do I honestly think the Detroit Pistons are going to come away with Kawhi Leonard this offseason? I don't, but it's an offseason topic. Wanted to get the blood boiling a little bit. I'm sure a lot of people got the pitchforks and thumbs down on this video because I said Kawhi Leonard, but that's okay, man. I forgive you. I love you guys. We were talking about Oklahoma City Thunder. And there was a report yesterday from Brett Siegel. He had a really interesting intel piece about the Thunder and their pick, that the Detroit Pistons would have interest in trading for the hometown kid, Axel Lendeberg, if he's there at the 12th overall pick. So if you're Detroit and you don't really know what the future holds for Tobias Harris, and the Axel is there at 12, I mean, are you calling up to try to trade up to 12 if he's still there?
12 seems pretty steep, man. The price is what your first this year and what maybe a first next year. Is it costing you another young player this year? That's an interesting one. Depending on the makeup of the squad and the players they believe are expendable, I could see it being very, very doable. Would I be shocked if on draft night we saw something like that, like a pick and I don't know, a Ron Holland? I wonder how people I wonder how people pick swapping Ron Holland for Yaxel Lindenberg. I do wonder how people would respond and react to something like that. Because I believe that it takes something a little bit more to trade up to 12. Look, if this was a situation where he falls to that 17 or 18th pick, absolutely. I think this is one designed and delivered. I think he offers you in a much, 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 much more cheaper package. I get it. It's just a rookie, but older rookie, more polished. A little bit of what you want in that 4th position if you're talking about an upgrade over Tobias Harris eventually. Hopefully he can develop into something like that with the types of skill sets that he has. But if you're talking about 12, you're talking about a completely different contract slot as well. As if you're giving up any other assets, this guy has to work out as your starter. It's no longer a project. It's no longer a player that you want to see kind of get better over time. This is a player that you're saying is going to be the guy that can contribute for us and make a big difference in year one.
Yeah, like the OKC component, like I saw a report today from Jake Fisher that they might try to trade up in the draft to try to get Cameron Boozer, which I don't think is the case because they're going to have one of the most expensive salaries in the league next year. Chet's not going to be in a rookie deal. Jalen Williams is not going to be in a rookie deal. $41 million each for both of them, and also $40 million for SGA. They have a team option on Lou Dort at $18 million. Alex Caruso's making money. I mean, they have to make some roster changes because they only have one available roster spot. And they have 3 draft picks, 2 first round picks. So I could totally see them trading out of both of these first round draft picks just because I don't really think that they're in the mindset of bringing in another young kid to play meaningful minutes for them. It just gets to a point where I think for them, they want to stay in this championship window and win as many championships as they possibly can. So if Yax is there at 12, if I'm the Pistons, I would consider it. I just don't know what it would take. Like you mentioned, could it be a Ron Holland? Like, could Ron Holland be a Lou Dort replacement because he's got maybe 1 year left on his rookie deal?
Snap.
Like, I that would be just a perfect fit for him. That'd be a perfect fit for him, honestly. But I would hate to see Ron go.
That'd be
but
sneaky.
Yeah, it would be really. It would be a Sam Presti move if we're being honest.
Oh yeah, and I think there'll be a lot of Detroit Pistons fans that would actually be disappointed in something like that. Especially considering we probably have a large portion of Michigan State supporters. So replacing the gold blue guy, replacing one of the kind of dog pounds, one of the inventors of that thing. That's a little tough. And Ron Holland's a guy who he found his way on the court by just sheer hustle, desire, will, motor, and things of that nature. And I still believe that there is more in store for his offensive game. Just based off of what you saw him doing in the G League, high volume guy, high efficient volume guy inside that perimeter. But in the NBA, we've seen it time and time again in this era. You got to have the outside shooting. And so, I know there's going to be some people who they shudder when they hear Ron Holland and these things, but like we continue to say, just the conversation, like if I could sign all these guys back and know all of them are going to reach my expectations, by all means. But I'm telling you guys, there was one point in time I thought Sadiq Bey was going to be, the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I appreciate it. And being able to cover these people and being able to talk to them, you appreciate what they're telling you, their journey, seeing them work. And now in year 5, bro, Anthony, it's year 5 for me. I'm going into year 6 covering the Pistons. You get a little bit different perspective. As a fan, you'll go down with the sinking ship, but when you're talking like on this level of it, you get a little bit of a different perspective of it, and you start to realize the business of it all, and you start to understand you need some assets on this roster if you're going to go and effectively do a trade. And I see PD Mac, they're still walking around. I agree with that, but I do wonder what that means for your timeline. Like, it looks like I wouldn't be surprised if this shaped up to be an offseason where they brought the band back and they just made some marginal tweaks again, like they did the last 2 off seasons. I think that that's a very real possibility.
Yeah, like I'm not advocating to trade Ron Holland. I just want to say that first.
Not at all.
I'm a very big Ron Holland fan.
Just a possibility.
And I know JB puts him in a box in terms of being that hustle and that glue guy, and he's just playing within a defined role. Because I know from watching him in the G League Ignite, there's a lot there that he doesn't fully get to display because he's just playing off the bench in a 60-win team, a playoff team. But I think that's the type of move you would probably have to consider with OKC because OKC is not going to give up a prime late lottery pick for nothing. They're probably going to be looking at some of your bench pieces that are a little bit cheaper than maybe a Lou Dort or whatever it may be. But I did see this report, and there was another guy that did work out with the Pistons last night. And I wanted to ask you this because I know you guys cover a lot of Piston stuff at Woodward Sports. So it's just kind of like a fun little question with the NBA draft coming up. So if you had to pick one of these prospects to trade up, Yaxel Lendenberg or Cameron Carr, who would you pick?
Oh man. And you're talking philosophies too.
Yep.
Oh man, Anthony, come on, why'd you do this to me?
It's a tough
Bro,
one. I've been going back and forth all day.
bro, am I a bad Michigan fan if I said Cameron Carr?
No, not at all.
Am I a bad Michigan fan if I say Cameron Carr? Like the offensive game is so. It just feels like he can do this on his own. Like you can give him the ball, he can just get out his way and let him just operate. The shooting ability, and I like Axel Lindenborg a lot and everything he could really present, but Cameron Carr, man, I like the dynamic offensive ability of him and the two-way ability too. I'm hoping that that's something that they're prioritizing in these players are getting, him and Isaiah Evans and such. But I think Cameron Carr is the guy for me.
You know who Cameron Carr reminds me a lot? It's a fan. It's a player that a lot of Pistons fans have been actually kind of pounding the table for. It reminds me a lot of Trey Murphy when I watch him. Like he can shoot the three. He's really athletic. He can defend. He could defend a little bit.
Finishes with the dunk.
Yeah, like I like Cameron Carr a lot, and it was really interesting that the Pistons brought him in for a pre-draft workout already. Now, why would you bring in Cameron Carr in for a pre-draft workout when you're at 21 and he's projected to go top 15? What is the front office trying to tell me? Like, why are you working out prospects in the top 15? Are you like, is Trajan falling in love with this archetype? Because we know he loves wings. I think Cam Carr definitely fits into that 2-3 mold that he really likes. I mean, I see a lot of similarities to like a Trey Murphy type of archetype when I watch Cam Carr.
Oh yeah, especially when you're talking about the level of investment you'd have to make. Now Trey Murphy is actualized, value. That's somebody who's proven it already in the NBA. You got to figure out, is what Cameron Carr doing right now going to be something that can translate if you're looking for some elements of what he can bring to this team. I think one of the major benefits for the Detroit Pistons is the fact that you do have Cade Cunningham right here on this team. I believe that helps already elevate things for anybody you add to the squad. Not that makes everybody good. You know what I'm saying? But I liked what I saw out of Danis Jenkins being able to play alongside Cade Cunningham and how he learned to grow into that role. Now you're talking about taking somebody in Cameron Carr, who, though I like Danis Jenkins a lot, I got to cover him since Summer League. They're doing a lot of the interviews and things of that nature. Cameron Carr is a player who is a prospect that'll be coming in with rated much higher rated skill set, and expectation. And now you're talking about bringing him to a squad that has these players that you see developing very, very well. So when I hear Trajan Langdon identifying someone like a Cameron Carr with his skill set, that's where I'm just like, ooh. Because I wasn't, I know that the Pistons, by trading from 28 to 21, they put themselves in a very, very good position. If you're 28, might as well just trade back into the second round, get a couple shots. I'm just being for real. But at 21, you give yourself even that much more of an opportunity to trade up, and you're not having to break the bank. Even if it's just a few moves up, like you said, if Carr falls to 16, 17, or maybe 18, I'm trading with OKC. I'm trading to get a guy like a Cameron Carr, who I think can give you, is it safe to say, lottery-like potential from a draft pick that you could probably get outside the lottery?
Yeah, I mean, before the NBA Combine, he was mocked to the Pistons for several months, and then he drops 30 points at the NBA Combine and he shoots up to 15. So, I mean, I think a lot of the GMs across the league kind of see his value as a prospect. There's a lot of prospects I do like for the Pistons at 21. But I would be lying to you if I said I wouldn't be excited with the idea of like if he's there, like let's say 16, 17, and you're moving up a couple of spots, and maybe you have to give up maybe future seconds, maybe the end of a bench player like a Marcus Sasser. Like I wouldn't lose sleep over it. Like I would be like pretty happy because I know this guy can play in between a 2 and a 3. Defensively, I think there are times where like he falls asleep and it's not the best processing, But I know no prospect is like perfect. They're just not. But I would be pretty excited with a Cam Carr if they were able to land him in this upcoming draft.
I would be. I would be too, man. Like I said, is I think the ability to kind of have his offensive game be activated no matter what the scenario or the situation is. So if you're in transition, if it's a fast break that started off of defense, turning defense to offense, if you're in your half court sets, he's a player that shows proficiency across the board from an offensive standpoint. And that to me is what excites me. Like I know that we loaded up on we needed to get some more gritty guys. You look at it, there was a time where Isaiah Stewart, shout out B. Stu, represented the Detroit Pistons' toughness and grittiness, right? And now you look and there's a Paul Reed, there's a Ron Holland, there's a Javonte Green, there's a Danish. There's guys who are now growing into those dog pounds or nasty boys as they were dubbed by JB Bickerstaff. Bro, man, shout out, bro, shout out.
I'm never calling another man a nasty boy with a straight face.
Yeah, but yeah, that was something. That was something. We'll say that. I was in that press. Like, all right. That's something. But I feel now might be a time to, when you look at your draft of philosophy, maybe if for your wings you're looking for more of the two-way minded guards. We're not neglecting defense. Maybe their defense isn't as good as Ron Holland. Maybe it's not as good as an opportunity as Asar Thompson, but maybe they're bringing a little bit more on the offensive side to be able to give you more of that balance. So I'm hoping for something of that nature for the Detroit Pistons in this draft.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think they will get a quality player now, whether they trade up in the draft for maybe like a Yaxel, a Cam Carr, or another prospect that we're not discussing right now. But I do think a lot of Pistons fans, once they saw Cam Carr, they're like, "Yo, like, are we trading up in the draft? Like, what's going on? Like, why would we work out a guy that high up in these draft boards and these mock drafts?" But I do want to stick with draft, and then we can kind of wrap up this podcast. So I don't know how deep you've been able to look at these prospects, but if there's just one prospect you like for the Pistons at 21, who would it be?
One prospect, I've been going back and forth between if it's one prospect I think will be there for them. I don't think Cam will be there. I think Isaiah Evans. Another guard, 6'5" type guy, can shoot from behind the arc. In terms of a guy I hope or I expect to be there for the Pistons at 21, it's definitely Isaiah Evans for me. Definitely.
Yeah,
I like the way getting into the lane and finishing.
You see a lot of Malik Monk and Malik Beasley in his game, the way he's able just to shoot threes and like not just shoot threes, like just loft these things from like NBA range, like 7 a game on 36% from three. Almost like when I was watching tape with him and I'm looking at that high release, I was like, bro, that's like kind of like a Brandon Ingram type of release. Like there's a lot to like about Isaiah Evans. I see a lot of Pistons fans talk about him. And in a lot of mocks, like he's actually like around like 24, 25. I don't really know why he's not highly rated in these mock drafts from these experts, but he's definitely a player that I like a lot. I'll give you one as well, just to kind of stick with this topic. I watched a lot of tape on Ibuka Okori, who's a point guard at Stanford. And I know Trajan talked about ball handling. And I know we have Danish Jenkins, but when I watch Danish Jenkins, he may play the point guard position, but I feel like he's way better off ball as a 2 guard. It's just my opinion. I think Okori, to me, is a low turnover, high assist guard that loves to play in the half court, can run in transition, and just makes really sound basketball decisions. Yeah, like kind of reminds you of Jaden Ivey a little bit, but more under control.
I like that actually, and I think one of the more underrated aspects of Jaden Ivey's game was honestly his facilitation. While he was here at the Pistons, you saw it get better year after year, and when he was able to get some light run next to Cade Cunningham, I saw his passing get even better. There was a stretch of that kind of 17 games, the famed 17 games of Jaden Ivey before the injury, where after a little bit of a rough start, Cade Cunningham's best minutes and time shooting a three came off of Jaden Ivey facilitation, getting down the hill, attracting the defense, and then kicking it out to Cade Cunningham. Literally, while Cade hasn't seen that type of defense played against him or the lack thereof in a long time, and I get it, they still would have brought a little bit tougher defense as he continued to get better. But I agree with you, man. You get a player in here that can bring that type of dynamic. I love it. That's why I asked earlier, like, I wonder what the philosophy is going into this. Are you looking for a heavy ball handler type? Are you looking to change up what your wings look like? Put a little bit more offense into your wing mix? Or are you looking to go and get some size? I just feel like if you get where they're picking, I don't know if there's like a very transformative or impactful big. I know there's a couple, but I just don't know if it in terms of what you're gonna have in terms of the 6'5", kind of 6'6" big guard, athletic, outside shooting, defense to offense type guys. They're gonna have some pretty good options if you're the Detroit Pistons to find an impact player like that.
I think in the front court, one guy that might be there is Joshua Jefferson out of Iowa State. He's a senior. He'll be a little bit older. He'll be like 22 and a half by the time the Pistons do draft him. He's a guy that you could look at. Alan Graves is another guy that could possibly be there if you're looking at power forward. I think every Michigan prospect is probably going to be gone by the time the Pistons are drafting at 21. I know I saw you and Braylon talk about Murray's Johnson Jr. over at Woodward, which I can't see him being there. I think all the Michigan kids in this first round will be gone by 21. Like Ade Mara, who I think a lot of Pistons fans would love because he's like a 7-footer and can put the ball on the floor and protect the rim. Yaxel will be gone. Johnson will be gone. Like there's just like there's obviously talent at 21, but I don't think you're really going to be able to supplement like a long-term power forward right away, I would say.
Yeah, no, I think you're preaching. Shout out to Mr. Detroit Twitter. I see him. He said Anthony knows ball of Corey is him. That's another player we talked about. I know Anton brought him up as well. And if you get an opportunity, I think if to get a guard like that low, you really think tough about it. Like, but where are you playing those types of guards? Especially, I saw. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm forgetting his name. Who's the point guard from Iowa?
Oh, Bennett Sturts?
Yeah. And I see some people, they talk about it. I'm like, is this a player that will come in and take it from, take the reins, I guess, from a Danis Jenkins type of thing? Is he somebody that's coming in and compete? If you pick a player at that point, I believe that you have an opportunity to go out there and get a player that can be impactful from a variety of ways. More so than maybe, the outside shooter, the good outside shooting shorter guard. I don't know if the 6'2" and under, like with our cornerbacks, how we want our cornerbacks to pass like the 6'1", 6-foot test now. With our guards, I think I'm looking for more of a rangy, kind of athletic, offensive, still got that two-way mindset of a 6'5" to maybe 6'8" type of guy. Definitely.
Yeah. Bennett Sturts is interesting. I don't know if he'll be there at 21. I know he's like mocked anywhere from like 17 to 19. To me, I don't think he plays point guard at the NBA level. I see him being more of an undersized 2 guard. Like when you watch him play, like when you watch him play, like you kind of see it like flashes of Tyler Hero coming off screens. Like you see the shot making ability kind of reminds you of Fred VanVleet a little bit. Like I'm not really under the impression that he's an everyday point guard. But man, can that kid shoot the shit out the ball?
But that's why I brought him up. What are you doing with a player like that at 6'2" and under? Where do you effectively hide him now? If he's shooting the ball, and he's actually like knocking that down, is that an aspect of the philosophy that you're looking for? I think he might be one of those few shorter players in this thing, and I say short term, not short, that might transcend that for you. But for me, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm still looking for the 6'5" to 6'7" guy.
it's difficult because I'm not comparing Bennett Sturge to Marcus Sasser, but Marcus Sasser is a similar size. It being like I'll be generous and say Marcus Sasser is 6'2" when I know he's not 6'2". I'll just be generous because
I'm just under. I'm like 6'2" with shoes on, right? Just under 6'2" without. I've interviewed Marcus Sasser face to face. I'm a little taller than Marcus Sasser.
Yeah, like I mean, I know sometimes they kind of fabricate like the heights on NBA.com, but it's interesting. It's a philosophy of JB Bickerstaff. Like you talk about the bigger guards. I'm thinking about the wing out of Texas, but he's not really a shooter yet. He's more of just like a transition, backdoor cut, movement type of scorer right now.
Opportunistic,
Yeah, like I don't. When you look at the shooters in this draft, like Isaiah Evans probably makes the most sense because he's over 6'5". He can play in between the 2 and 3. I think he does make a lot of sense. Like I like Malik Thomas, but he's 6'3". But like it doesn't bother me that he's 6'3". Like when I look at Malik Thomas, like I see a lot of similarities to how Jordan Poole likes to operate out of the half court. Like just like let me get to my spot, let me take over this game. I'm getting us a bucket type of player. Like Malik Thomas, I think will make one organization very happy because if you're just looking for a guy that score the basketball, that is his elite skills trait in my opinion.
You know what the conversation does? Because I'm just sitting here and I'm like, dang, because we all go on with our different, things that we are going to prioritize in a draft. Like, and as we know, Trajan Langdon and Co are going to. But what the conversation actually does is it shows you this: the Pistons, by trading it from 28 to 21, put themselves in a really, really good position here. I'm not saying great because obviously that's one in which you're able to go out there and get you a lottery player. But in terms of finding an impact player, well, what have they done over the years in this kind of 16 to 21 range, 16 to 22 range? We've seen them be able to go and find some impact players. And that's where I'm looking forward to this draft where we're talking about a lot of names. Some that might be just before the Pistons pick. Some we believe will be there. Some we believe will be available even after the Pistons pick potentially. But all of these players, I'm sitting here hearing names. I'm like, man, these guys have some pretty unique skill sets and traits that I do believe can slide in right now. We're not asking our draft picks anymore to be the saviors of the franchise. We're asking them now to come in and make your name by, hey, here's a lane that I have you in. Let's rock. So it'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, the only two guard off the top of my head in this draft that you maybe, and like to me, I think this would be a reach of 21, but Richie Sanders out of BYU is a senior. He's a shooting guard. He's a little bit taller. Can shoot the 3-point ball pretty decently. Maybe you can talk yourself into Richie Sanders. Like there's not really a bunch of two guards that kind of fit the bill of being over 6'5". There's one that I told you before we started, and that's Tonde Yesufu, and he shot 29% from 3 at Baylor next to Cameron Carr. But like he's the archetype you look at. Like he kind of reminds you of like an OG Anunoby if he hits his absolute ceiling. Like he's got the NBA body already. Like he's a 6'5", 220-pound 2-3. Like you absolutely love that if you're an organization at the back end of the first round. But I don't think the Pistons can afford to draft another project player. I just don't. No. I think they have to. At 21, if they stay there, it has to be a player that fits into what they're looking for. And I think, to me personally, in this draft, they're probably looking for more 3-point snipers. And your pick, I think Isaiah Evans is spot on the nose. I think he checks a lot of boxes off. And it would be Trajan Langdon's first University of Duke player. I mean, maybe there's some favoritism there, man. Maybe there's some favoritism there. You never know.
Hey, you know what? And I wouldn't be mad at that pick. Like, look, if the Pistons wound up with one of those Michigan players, if they wound up with Yaxel Vandenborg, I'm a happy person. Like I said, I believe the Pistons, by trading up to 21, and I'm glad that they favored, wanting to win. They favored wanting to go out there and win every game, and they didn't hurt themselves at all in the aspects of drafts because they were able to trade their pick. And even though it looked like what are the Timberwolves doing towards the end of the season? There were some people wondering, whoa, are the Pistons going to get this pick swap? You know what? It worked out for them, and I think it did because they chose in some regard to, I won't call it aggressive, but be proactive with their moves. You couldn't go into the offseason with where Jaden Ivey was, understanding the cap hold he was going to have. That thing would have been an albatross. And it takes away a lot of your flexibility early in the free agency in the draft season. So, I don't know, man. I ultimately am comfortable with the mindset of Trajan Langdon. It's just we haven't seen yet when he's trying to swing for the fences or when it looks like we might need a home run. Who was Trajan Langdon then? And that's one where we're going to learn a lot about the squad and about their philosophy really, really quickly here, man. But this draft, it presents, in my opinion, the ability to go out there and, like you said, not have to get a project player, but I believe they're going to have their pick of multiple impact players at 21. I really do.
Yeah. The only player I hope they don't draft is Koa Pete. Just stay away from him with a 10-foot pole. It's got Henry Ellison vibes written all over it.
Ah! Oh, snap. We don't need no more Summer League Henry Ellison.
Hey, man,
Summer League Henry Ellison? Come on now.
Or the week that he was with the New York Knicks and they were calling him, they were basically saying he was better than Kristaps Porzingis.
Boy, they've had some dark times too, huh? Oh, shout out to them.
Yeah, shout out to them making the NBA Finals. I mean, I looked at the lines for next game for the Spurs and OKC. They got the Thunder, or they have the Thunder is actually the underdog. I'm like, the Thunder is an underdog in San Antonio. That's weird to me, man. I don't know who's gonna win this series. I feel like it's a coin flip at this point. But man, like I don't know who's gonna be coming out.
I'm wondering like whose money are they taking in this thing, because that sounds kind of crazy. Like I don't see it. I just see a OKC. If you're in the conspiracy world, or if you're in just kind of following the logical trends, it just feels like this is an OKC thing to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I know I have a group chat with Sean and Eric Vincent, and he had sent us a picture of Tony Brothers kind of like fangirling over Lou Dort, and it's just like, bro, like I've never seen a ref look at a player like that in my life. Like
I saw that. I think I saw somebody post something like that online earlier too. I'm just like, dog, at least do better at covering it up. Come on, y'all. Tony Brothers, you got caught slipping, bro.
I mean, Tony Brothers is public enemy #1 in Detroit, man. Like, as far as I'm concerned.
Refs in general, man, with just the way you saw Cleveland look like really, really good versus the Pistons, and then absolutely swept against the Knicks. Like, am I just missing something here? Am I just overlooking how great the Knicks actually are? That to me is where I'm just a myth, because I'm like, come on, guys. The Pistons and the refs, I put the Pistons, they get their blame too. But you guys robbed us. Referees, you got your blame in this. You guys robbed us of what I thought was going to be an epic, one of the all-time Eastern Conference Finals. And instead, we get probably just a paved road for the New York Knicks in this playoffs to get to the finals, man. Sweeping the Cleveland Cavaliers, that's just a tough look. You get the Cavs. If for the people who believe that the refs helped get the Cavs there, is they at least give us a better show in the Eastern Conference Finals than what we just saw. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, I mean, apparently they're still in this series analytically. Like the analytics say that the Cavs, if they shot better, this would be like
won 2 games analytically, Anthony. Like what? Come on, bro.
I'm sorry, if I'm an owner and I hear that, I'm firing your ass on the spot. Like
he said that, and the next day they came out with, "We're keeping him." I'm like, okay, yeah. Breaking news from Shams.
Yeah, I'm not like, shout out to the Knicks though for making the finals. I think it'll be a really good NBA Finals. I don't know who's gonna make it out of OKC or the Thunder. I think both of those teams present extreme challenges for them, but I don't see it being a sweep. I could see it being a 6 to 7 game series. Just the way the Knicks are playing right now, man. Like they're playing out of their damn mind. Like game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals, when they were down 20, I was like, man, like Cavs are like busting their ass right now. And then Jalen Brunson just goes on an absolute heater. Like,
I mean,
crazy.
Like the goalie in hockey and playoffs. I think that you can get a star that's absolutely hot during the playoffs, and they can change everything for you. You know, and that's where Jalen Brunson, there's not too many people who can really slow him down. Like you hear what he said to Asar Thompson last year, and we appreciate the efforts that Asar did, but Jalen Brunson was still Jalen Brunson. Like he was still the crunch time moments. I was like, what the frick is going on? Like this is insane. I grew a lot of respect for Jalen Brunson, the player, for coming through in those moments, despite having even Asar Thompson on him in those games, making it tough. Now, you remove Asar Thompson from this thing, and what is he doing to the rest of the playoffs? He is effing it up, bro. Who has slowed him down this entire playoffs? Nobody
really. No, he's a very tough cover.
I don't even want to admit this.
Yeah, I can be like objective and like respect game. Like he's just such a hard cover, and like especially when Kenny said like, yeah, James Harden does a good job on Jalen Brunson. I knew the series was over. I knew they were cooked. I was like, yeah, they're cooked. There's no way. I mean, you're throwing Jalen Tyson on there. I would even throw Dennis Schroeder on Jalen Brunson before James Harden. But at the end of the day, man, like it's crazy. I know as Pistons fans, like we obviously would have loved to see the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, because I think we wouldn't have got swept. I don't think we would have given them at least a tough 6 to 7 game series. Not at all. I personally believe. But someone had asked one question, then we can wrap this up, about we haven't really talked about the power forward position with the Pistons. I'll just say this. I'll say my piece. I personally think out of everything Trajan said with ball handling and 3-point shooting, power forward to me is the biggest hole on this roster. Like I think that's one position you have to upgrade this offseason.
100%. Like when we talked, I guess, a lot about what other people's outlook was for and reacting to theirs for free agency. But for me, this is a situation where I'm hoping the Pistons take a swing. Like you mentioned a name that I mentioned on my stream a little bit, I think on Sunday, John Collins. This is a guy that I feel like Detroit has flirted with for years. I don't know if it's just the fans, but we've seen the rumors, we've seen reports and things of that nature, and I don't know what that looks like, but you're right. I've told people this too. We came into the season believing that there was a world where Jalen Duren and Tobias Harris were going to be getting $40 million combined. Combined. I heard people say, yeah, maybe we could bring back Tobias to come off the bench for like 10 to 12 million a year. Well, surprise. Not only did he ball out during the season, but he balled out for the majority of the playoffs, save those last 3 games against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and probably put himself into a completely different stratosphere than what we were thinking that he was going to get. And so now who knows what this thing is, because if you're replacing Tobias, who are you going out there to get? This is where sometimes I do think of a person like John Collins type of a player. I see PD Mack is saying Nas Reed in the chat, because I do believe you got to upgrade that 4th spot. Not that I want Tobias Harris gone from the team, but I do believe upgrading that 4th spot, getting a little bit more size is paramount. That's what got exposed. Part of what got exposed in the playoffs. Of course, we're not questioning their fight. I can't question their heart. I can't question like their ability to want to be out there in the battle and their motor. But what I can't question, they don't really have the measurables across the board, especially with some of the lineups that they want to play. And what did you see happen? What was their superpowers the last couple years? They owned the paint. They owned the rebounds. But now all of a sudden in the playoffs, they find themselves against 2 of the bigger teams in the East. Mind you, I don't care what all the other teams are built as. I care about the teams that they're going to be battling to try and get to the championship. Those teams brought size, athleticism, physicality, along with the grit and all of that. And that's what made the difference. They're just having like taller players, more physical players, the bigger players across their front line. Obviously, we know what the Cavaliers are running out there with Jared Allen and Evan Mobley as well. having their wings crashing down on the boards too. So I would 100%. I am 100% hoping that this Pistons team upgrades this offseason from that regard. I really do, man.
If they do want to get better at power forward and Giannis does get traded, I would call Milwaukee and say if you want to reroute Bobby Portis to Detroit, I'm in. Because I think Bobby Portis makes a whole lot of sense. Had a career year from three. Like I wasn't really. I'll be fully transparent. Sometimes I'm not actively looking at other teams' players and what they shoot. I had no idea this guy was shooting like high 40s from three all year until I looked at it like throughout the season. I was like, damn, like he might like win like sixth man of the year. Like I feel like Bobby Portis kind of just fits that Detroit DNA, like that this Detroit mindset, like the blueprint of like the type of players that we want. I like John Collins too. I like his ability to stretch the floor, being a lob threat. I think defensively kind of leaves you wanting a little bit more. But I know someone had mentioned Naz Reid. Ron and Naz Reid would have to make up before that would happen.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. But I feel like there are some like B to C tier power forwards that make sense. Like my ultimate like low key dream would be Obi Toppin. Like I'd love an Obi Toppin in Detroit, but I don't know if Indiana lets go of Tyrese Halliburton's favorite lob threat. And not to mention, like, I think one of the last games that we played when he came back, he had like 30 points on like 7 threes. He was just going absolutely berserk. But I feel like there are some like under the radar power forwards, but really depends what Tobias is going to do. But it'll be interesting. I hope they do kind of address that hole on the roster that we do have.
I do too. Like I'm hoping it's at the starter position personally, but if not, I still believe there's an opportunity to be able to get another big on the scene. Now, everyone's favorite big off the bench seems to be Paul Reed, Mr. B-Ball Paul himself. So, the Pistons have some decisions to make, man, on their hands this offseason and next offseason. There is so much to do, but this one is the pivotal one. This is the one where if you didn't push in all your chips at the trade deadline, this past trade deadline, you have a grand opportunity this offseason to really make some things happen for your Detroit Pistons team to ensure they get to the next level. The next step has to be Eastern Conference Finals?
I think so. Like top 4, compete with the Eastern Conference powerhouses. Like Indiana, I think will be much improved after getting Avasa Eubanks. I think Tyrese Halliburton is already back working in the gym with Pascal Siakam. I see the Pacers coming out very aggressive, very hungry.
Oh, the Pistons got their work cut out for them.
Yeah, Boston is getting Jason Tatum back. Who knows how their offseason is going to end out. I do see them being, in the mix as a top dog. Like the New York Knicks, obviously. I do see the Pistons in there. Let's see what happens with the Orlando Magic, who they hire as a head coach, because I'm still really interested to see who's their head coach going to be. Is it going to be Billy Donovan? If so, good luck. Good luck. That's all I'll say. But it'll be interesting. Like you even have Atlanta now too. Atlanta after that trade deadline and retooling their team, being long and athletic.
They're already good.
I think the Eastern Conference is going to be better than the West next year. That's where I'm at. Like I think the East will have more competition than the West, and that might sound like a hot take right now. You just look at the East from like 1 to 7. It's going to be really competitive.
It sounds a little bit like a hot take, but when you look at some of the improvements that the teams make and what they can do next year to kind of bounce back, some teams just have to bounce back. Like Boston, they were still really good, and they're going to get Jason Tatum and bounce back to what could potentially be even that much better. Like I can see it. I can see it in terms of, do I believe next year is going to be that much more competitive in the East? Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. I don't. I'll be lying if I sat and told you I foresee 60 wins for the Pistons next year. I think this is going to be an East that's much more competitive, and one in which the Pistons are going to catch just a few more L's because of this. The East is getting better. They're getting healthy, and there's going to be some, after you see what the dust settles as it relates to who is Indiana Pacers, they're just a complete wild card right now. You could pick several other teams that you can see on a decent trajectory. And then you get to teams like Indiana Pacers, who could absolutely muddy things up. What if they were a good team this year? Think about it. What if they were? What if Tyrese? That muddies up and murks up a whole lot of what went on this season. So I don't know, man. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, Washington's getting the number one pick, and they have Trae Young and Anthony Davis waiting. Like, that's gonna be scary. Like I said, it's gonna be a fun Eastern Conference. But I appreciate you coming on. We have almost 1,500 people in this live chat right now watching on a Wednesday night.
That like button.
Yeah, we got a lot of Pistons fans. I see some Knicks fans in here causing havoc like they always do in these live chats. So I welcome, man. Like I know some Pistons fans don't like Knicks fans, but I don't mind them. I like their passion. I like their shit talking. As long as it's just like shit talking where it doesn't like cross the line. Like I welcome it. But,
yeah.
I want to give you the floor to plug and promote where people can find you or where they can support your work, because I know you do a lot of stuff over at Woodward Sports and cover the Pistons all season long.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, Woodward Sports is the network home, but I got some interesting things brewing right now. So definitely stay tapped to Woodward Pistons on all platforms. If you want to follow me personally at Detroit Kool-Aid, you know, recently with some changes at Woodward Sports, it's going to take Pistons coverage into a direction that I actually appreciate. So you're going to be able to get a whole lot of content and coverage from several different places. And honestly, Anthony, I'm looking forward to stepping into more collaboration as well with this new kind of a setup. So yeah, Woodward Pistons is going to be a place where you're going to see a lot of content that I make go right there. And draft, I'm putting in the credential request for that. So Anthony, if it comes through, I want to be able to have a table talk, you know, with all of our guys right there from the draft, man. So I'll definitely send that link.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. I know last time I came on, my camera crashed on you guys. I felt like that was like that was such a fun. Was such a fun podcast. With like Jeff and KG. I know Sean hopped on for a little bit, and yourself as well. Which I feel like we probably hadn't really done that in like 4 or 5 years of like having like those
long time,
like 5-6 people on a podcast. But do appreciate all you guys that have been watching for the past 2 hours. If you could, on your way out, hit the like button. If you're an audio listener, make sure to give us a 5-star review on wherever you do get your podcast. But we will see you guys next week. Hope you guys are enjoying your summer. Summer's finally here, man. Love it. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.
Go Pistons.